Welcome to the CADWOLF tutorial on column and bar charts. And we're going to start off this tutorial with a quick example where we just add a chart and show you how to quickly do a bar chart. Then we're going to go into an in-depth discussion of the plot dialog and what's available to you. And then we're going to go through a fairly detailed example with some column and bar charts. So let's start off with our test document where we've got some arrays of data added here to it, and we're going to simply click on the button to add a chart, and you'll see the edit plot dialog comes up. We'll add a data set and populate it with our Y1 variable, and our default line chart we change to a column chart, and you'll see it appear there. So we'll change the name of that to Y1 to reflect the name of the data. You can see the legend update. Let's add a second data set, and we'll use the Y2 variable. That's one too long for me. I want them to be the same length. So let's try, what was Y3? That was a sinusoid. So you see a fairly large array there plotted in a bar chart. The Y5 is the same length. We'll stick with that. So let's change the name to be Y5. And there's a typical bar chart. So let's go into detail about what you can do with the bar chart in this dialog. So within the main edit window here, you have the plot section where you'll see the plot just as it will appear in the document when it's done. Then you have the format section to the right. Now this is where you add, edit, and delete data to the chart. Within that section you can select the chart type, be it line, column, bar, or any other ones. You select what type of data you're going to work on in the section below, be it the format, the data, a band, a line, a text. And then beneath that, once you've selected one of those items, there's a section where you can add an instance of that item. You're going to see how that works in just a second. You saw how it worked with data. So we've selected data here so that the item that we're editing at the bottom is the format of the data. You enter what it is, what it looks like, and change it that way. So what options are available to us when we select which item to edit? Well, you select the chart data as you saw, where you edit and delete data sets, edit the X and Y data, set their axes, and change their general appearance. In the formats, you can show and hide the subtitle, change those, change the size and the margins, and edit the legend. So in the X and Y axis options, you can add and delete an X, Y axis. You edit the setup of these axes, whether it's max, min, linear log, that sort of thing. You change its appearance and placement, and edit some of the tick marks in it. When you select the bands option, you can add and delete bands, set where they start and end, as well as change what axis they lay on and what color they have. The same options pretty much exist for the lines. You're going to see those in just a second. When you're dealing with text, you can change the text and add equations to it, change its location, size, and color. So let's go back to our example and look at some of these options in detail. So we've got two data sets. Let's add a third one here. And we'll set the data to be Y6, and you can see we've got a new data set there. Let's just change the name to reflect that a little bit better. And the chart will update. Alright, so now we got three sets of data, and let's talk a little bit about how a column or bar chart is different from the standard line chart. So you can set the X and Y value of a column chart, but you can also set what we call categories or labels. That's what the labels are at the bottom of the chart. So these are comma separated text values. There's no evaluation here. It's just straight text that's put on the chart. So we'll enter a few values here separated by commas and hit enter, and you see those appear as the labels for each section there. This is one of the ways that column and bar charts differ from the standard line chart. One of the other ways is what we call stacking. Let's take a look at that real quick. So still on the data, you notice that you have the standard appearance options here. Back in the data, you have at the bottom what we call stacking, and there's three options. The default is none. You can set it to normal, and it just stacks all of the available data sets on top of each other. You can also check percentage, and each one will be shown as the percentage of 100 represented by that data set. This is a pretty useful feature, not only in the way that it displays the data as a percentage of 100, but also the way it shows labels. So let's just click back to none to show you some of the default behavior for a label. So for each data set, you go into its appearance and you turn on the data labels, and you see those numbers appear at the top of each data set. So notice when we click on the data set we want to work on, the values are set within the edit box there. So we've got all those labels on. Let's pick one of them and stack them. You could pick the stack on any data set and it'll affect all of them. And you see the labels are now at the center of each data set instead of to the top like they were before. And the same thing would be for a normal stack as well. So something that's there for every type of chart, but is really more useful for column, bars, and possibly pie charts, is the monocolor setting. So you can enter text like red and hit enter, and it'll recolor each data set to be a variation of that original color. There's red, blue, green, and one or two other colors. I think yellow is available as well. And you can simply delete any entry from there, and the colors will default back to their default colors like you see here. Alright, so you have labels, categories, and a few other useful things you can do with column charts. Let's take a look at how bands are created. And it's really the same thing as line charts. You click on the bands option, add an instance of a band, set its start and end location, and then select what axis you want it to appear on. It could be an X or Y axis, and you could also change its color if you wanted to. So there we just created a band there that starts at 2, ends at 4, and has a yellow color on the X axis or the standard Y axis. We change it to the X axis and you see the same thing there. Now remember, each chart is created with a single default X and Y axis. We can go to lines, add an instance, select a value where the line's going to reside at. We'll set 5 here, give it a width in pixels, and set it to be on the Y axis. And there you see it there, but it's yellow, so it's kind of hard to see. We'll set it to gray. And there we are. Text functions in pretty much the same way. You check the option or select the option to edit the text, add an instance, and then enter the text that you want. Now remember, in CADWOLF, if you want to show the value of an equation here, you add a hashtag in front of it. And all variables are arrays, so you have to set the index. If it's a single value, you'll hit 00, so the hashtag Y100 shows that value there. You can then position that text wherever you want to. You can change its color, its angle, its size, a number of things. So now let's go back and let's look at axes. Selecting our data, let's add a 4th data set here. Now we're going to enter a data set that we created that went from 1000 to 1010, I believe. And what you're going to see is that that's going to pretty much swamp out all the rest of our data. You can see from the labels that they're there, but you can't see anything of their value. They don't really have any representation on the chart. So let's go to the Y-axis and add a secondary axis. You can see the first one, the default one, was already there. So let's go to the appearance of this second axis, change its opposite to true. So it should be on the right side here, but you'll notice that you don't see it yet. So this is because there isn't enough space on the right side of the chart to see it. So we'll go into our format, and where we have a 10 pixel padding or margin on the right, we'll change that to 100. We'll go back to the Y-axis. I forgot to add a label on the axis. You can actually see that it's there. So in the setup here, I'll give it a label of secondary. Hit enter, and there you see it there. So now we have 2 axes, but we haven't actually placed any data on this secondary axis. So let's go back to our data, go down to the new data sets. I forgot to change the label to Y6, or Y4, I'm sorry. And in the axis thing there, we'll select this new secondary axis. So as you can see, the high value is now plotted against the second axis, and the rest of the values are plotted against the first, so you can really just see them all on one chart. And we turn the data labels on, you can see those labels. So this is the usefulness of adding a second or third or fourth axis. There's a number of things you could change in the appearance section here, such as the color and the format of the text labels, but we're not going to really mess with that right now. You can go through documentation and see all of the options that you have there. What we're going to do right now is we're going to go over to the format, and we'll show you how to add and edit a title. You just simply click the button to add it, and we'll change the text of the title there. to my shiny new title. And the subtitle is something that simply appears beneath it there. This gives you an option to add more text. And you can change the size and the margins of the plot. You can turn the legend on or off simply by clicking the button. And you can change the layout and position of the legend as well. We'll change it to be vertical, and we'll put it on the right side since we have some space over there now. And there you have it. So there's really only one thing left to discuss, and that's a bar chart, which is pretty much the same thing as a column chart. It's simply left to right instead of up or down. So let's change in our type from a column chart to a bar chart. And you'll see that the same data with everything, it's basically just rotated to the right. So bar charts have all the same options as a column chart with labels and everything else. Well, that's it for the CADWOLF tutorial on bar and column charts. Remember, in the documentation workspace, there's detailed descriptions of all the options available to you for all charts. And make sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter.